that'd be great if you can. Yeah.
Yes, that's fantastic. And also by putting it on YouTube, I know it's a bit naughty, but it helps. It saves like a step of having to then upload it later. So I'll do it, but it'll be like I said, not sorry, yeah, whatever.
Public.
Not public, not visible. Okay, over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, so it won't be going viral and kind of spreading across the net. Don't worry. Although maybe, who knows? So yeah,
technology's moved on so much since I left the NHS 20 years ago.
It goes fast, doesn't it? It keeps on moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, so tonight, so first we're meeting Eleanor Meredith. So hopefully you've all had a chance to have a look through the proposals that they sent over. It's also their CVs are also there, so they were all sent the same brief and the same kind of questions, and they've all come back in with very different ideas as well. They were all really fantastic. So they will talk for 5 minutes, and then we can ask them questions. I will keep it moving along because we're kind of straight on to the next person afterwards. So Eleanor's at 10 past, so she should join us really soon. She's got my telephone number if there's any problems as well. And then at 5:30 is David, and then at 5:50 is Enya, and 6:10 is Grace. So they're kind of back to back. It's going to be quite fast, and then we should have half an hour at the end. We'll probably run over a little bit, but we'll have a bit of time at the end to just kind of digest and kind of talk through as well. So yeah, does anybody have any questions before hopefully the first artist appears? Cool. Okay, good. Okay. I think she's being like super on time. Let me just check. Yeah, 2 minutes. 2 minutes to go.
So maybe you can give us an update on what happened so far with Bat Studios in a couple of minutes that we've got.
Which bit? They're working on the public engagement, so they want to we're going to shift the date for that, but they want to kind of share their initial ideas with patients, and just kind of to talk through those. I haven't seen them yet. You haven't seen them yet either, have you, Karen? So I think they'll be sending.
So just so everybody know, so we've now formally contracted Bat Studios, and they're going to be designing the waiting rooms, and we've got a budget, although we're still arguing how much from here to transfer over from construction to that to be able to build the reception desks. And they're also going to build the joinery around the columns as we discussed, and they're going to be in charge of buying the chairs and the furniture for waiting rooms and subways. One of the new developments is we find that there's going to be a roller shutter in front of the reception desk, and that's for safety of the overnight. So they're going to have to factor this in, and potentially, I know there's been some sort of level of discussion at board level. I think that they might have a comment on that, about the posts, about any kind of COVID design amendments, and whether they want to factor in potentially some changes at a later stage in terms of visas, etc. So that was just where we at, and like Sarah says, the meeting's on the 5th of June with Bat Studios and patients, which is next Friday.
Eleanor is here. The other thing I was going to ask was if we can go around and introduce ourselves, because then she knows who each person is, and also I get really flustered if I have to introduce everybody and say job titles. So if we could go around and quickly introduce ourselves so she knows who everybody is, that would be great. So this is Eleanor.
Are you admitting her, or shall I?
I've just done it. Oh, she's joining twice for some reason.
Let's see which one works.
Here we go. Hello, Eleanor. How are you? Can you hear us okay?
You're muted or not? Let me just check.
I'm connecting. Oh, you're muted at the moment.
I can't think that's it. You're unmuted now. Oops, and again.
You think is that working?
Yes. Oh yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you now. Hi, Eleanor. So I'm Sarah Granger-Jones. How are you? Good to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you too.
So I thought we'd go around and introduce ourselves quickly, so you know who everybody is on the Arts Committee. So I'm Sarah. So you've already met me on the phone and stuff. And I'll pass over to Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm the current head of arts. Pass it on to Annabelle. Next to me.
Hi, I'm Annabelle. I work as a visual arts manager for the Trust. I'm going to pass you on to Karen Taylor.
Karen's in this room, it's not a popular name at the moment for some reason, but I'm Karen Taylor, and I work in patient and public engagement. It's really nice to meet you, Eleanor. I'm going to pass it on to Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm the radiology manager at Brompton. I'll pass you on to Dudley.
Terrific. I'm Dudley Purnell, and I direct the cardiovascular MR unit, which is one of the departments in the basement of the New Imaging Centre.
We're passing it on to Dudley.
Hi,
So
I'm Jackie.
probably.
I'm Jackie and I'm a patient.
Hello.
Hi.
Faye, do you want to go next?
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, yes. Hi, I'm Faye. I work as Dudley in the cardiovascular MRI Centre. I'm the lead administrator there, and also I work for Dudley directly.
Thank you, everybody. So Eleanor, we thought that maybe we could spend the first 5 minutes just talking through your ideas and your proposal. I don't know if you want to screen share it as well, so that you can kind of reference it, or you can let me know and I can do it for you.
Maybe I'm a bit slow on the Zoom, so maybe if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. That is fine. It does mean that you won't be able to kind of point to bits of it, but I can move it up and down, and just let me know.
Okay.
Just give me a minute to bring it up for you.
You've worked with Bat Studios before, haven't you, Eleanor?
Yeah, it was on it was kind of on a workshop piece, which kind of toured the northwest, kind of in Doncaster, and yeah, it was a collaborative work. So yeah, they're great. I really like their work. So would you like me to kind of just to talk through the whole process of the brief, or kind of just kind of start from the beginning? Yeah.
I guess just a bit about your ideas and how you would approach it. I mean,
yeah,
everybody's seen these already, but I just thought it'd be a nice way of like starting and introducing how you would approach it. But let me know if you want me to move it.
Okay, cool. So I kind of wanted to make, well, I should start by saying that the theme was really exciting, the biophilia one, because that's kind of how I work. Anyhow, it's kind of would kind of incorporate that. So, and I wanted to kind of find a way of working with other people to engage, which felt kind of really meaningful, and try and make it meaningful at this time when we're all quite disconnected and having a difficult time. So the start of my approach would be to kind of work with flower pressings, so sending out flower presses to staff and patients who will be working in this new building or being treated in this new building. I don't know if that's possible with the patients, but and then they would collect plants and flowers from their walks just now on their own. So this could be in their gardens, in parks, or even just outside the hospital. And they would kind of take apart these bits of plants, and then I would then kind of look, we'd bring them all together, and they would be kind of dissected, which is also, dissected, which would kind of try and mirror the kind of scanning processes. And then I would look at all these pressed plants and then kind of interpret them with large watercolour images, which would then go along the halls, so, and the corridors, and kind of provide the main kind of theme and the look for the wayfinding. So these elements would be based on the pressed plants, and they would be then in keeping with the colour themes on each of the 3 floors, which you kind of outlined. And yeah, I kind of wanted to keep it really kind of loose, because it would be watercolour on a large scale, which would be printed with vinyl. I thought it kind of still feel quite kind of natural, and hopefully have a slight kind of whimsical and still tangible feel to it. And the colour themes will hopefully keep it feeling holistic within one floor, but also hopefully quite kind of tangible. So it'll feel like recognizable elements will be there as well. So there'll be kind of large hands, for example, pointing a direction, like the image which is up just now, or I think there's an image right at the end of my proposal of some feet, and they'll be kind of walking away. And oh yeah, they're at the end. Oh, that's an example of the pressed flowers. Yeah, there we are, feet walking in one direction. And so it's a bit playful, but it's also supposed to be kind of, I didn't want to take anything too literal, too scientific, because that's not really the way that I work. I don't kind of work with those themes normally. Yeah, did that waffle make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
So yeah, and kind of in terms of other images on the brief, then I thought there'd be could be wooden elements, kind of try and work with the work that BAT are doing on top. So there could be large numbers, for example. I wasn't sure how much of the hospital signage would need to be incorporated already. So like, for example, like the existing signage, would that just need to be, you know, in that space, or whether it could be kind of keeping the wooden elements that BAT are using, and like that could be the signage there. I don't know. And yeah, it's also kind of playing with scale. So we'd have these very, very large forms as when you are walking down around a space, and it's kind of hopefully will feel like a bit of a journey and a discovery.
Brilliant, thank you. Should we open up for questions now? I think maybe if people want to ask questions, if they put their hand up, although I can't see everybody at the moment, but if you want to put your hand up so you can ask Eleanor a question. Jackie would like to ask a question, I think.
Clapping.
Yes.
Oh, no, clapping.
Vinyl, how durable is that going to be? If it's sort of stuck on the wall, the sun does come in some places. Will it not peel? And also, if it's watercolour, again, how durable is that?
So it will be painted and scanned, and then it will then be printed on the vinyl. The vinyl itself will be wipeable, so it should be kind of hopefully what's the hospital phrase?
Infection control.
Yes, thank you. It should be fine for that.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in there? Sorry, Jackie, we have quite a few of the artworks in and around the hospital estates that are vinyl based on the wall, and they use a very specific type of glue that adheres to the kind of paint that's on the wall that's actually bacteria repellent. It's a super strong glue, and last time we tried to take a vinyl off, the wall came off with it, so it's pretty robust. And wipeable.
Hammer and chisel job, was it?
It's still
okay,
there
thank
anyway.
you.
But do you have contacts with have you done that before then, I suppose, Eleanor?
Actual vinyl like this I haven't done before, but I have painted directly on walls, and I have used kind of large scale screens. So working at this scale isn't new to me, but kind of actually kind of printing at this like that is. But I would obviously get tests and check that all the printing and stuff is looking good.
Karen?
I do have a question, because you mentioned something about what existing signage, and so my first question was, what's your experience of wayfinding? The second one that leads onto it is actually, so there isn't existing signage. There is some statutory signage, which means emergency exits and do not enter this for legal reasons. There isn't any signage in place, the whole purpose of it is to create it. So I suppose my question is, are you able to do technical drawings, or would we need to bring in somebody who has the experience of creating the detailed specifications for signage companies?
I think in terms of, do you mean like actually drawings which would be on a sign?
Yeah,
yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
I guess I was unsure of that because I read that it was kind of going to need it to be the dementia friendly, like, and when I've been in hospitals before, it's always very kind of, the hospital signage is always very kind of clear, and I actually thought that that would be kind of mandatory. In terms of then if you needed kind of, I mean, I'd love to kind of either do kind of playful writing, or that would be great. I think it'd also go really nicely with the designs on top of that, but I just wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't sure where that was. I mean, technically, if it was just about kind of getting things printed or kind of checked, that would be kind of fine to do. Did I answer that? Was there another bit? Was that?
No, you've answered it. I suppose what we need to do is we'll need to work in partnership with Bad Studios and make sure that there's somebody has the knowledge, and if not, we'll have to bring it in.
Yeah.
Jackie?
So if, for example, you're using the feet for a particular place, would you envisage putting wordage up and perhaps a copy of the feet so that people could go with the words or the feet?
The feet were more of a kind of directional fit. So for example, the feet would be going along a corridor, and then separate from that would be like the words would be kind of room XYZ would need to be kind of labelled elsewhere. I don't think they're not kind of in reference to a specific medical procedure or scanning technique which would be happening, but you know, suggestive that obviously we're working with the body here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned about having kind of like things kind of leading through, and I really liked, I'm just going to go up to, where are they? These petals as well, and I was wondering if that was something that you'd done for this, or that was like a separate thing, but it seems to really tie in with like that the cherry blossom, and I'm guessing that was intentional because it looks like a cherry blossom.
that was actually something I'd done before, but I was like, oh great, it kind of fits, so I thought stylistically, and I thought it'd be really nice to have kind of petals and plants going through each of the floors, like, so whether that would be on, so obviously they'll be on the walls, not continuously, but there will be gaps between, and then I thought some of the floors would be great, even the ceilings, because you know, some people might be mentioned like lying down, and then it would feel kind of like you're following a certain path journey, and it's kind of that nice kind of discovery and surprise, which would be really great to bring in. And then I thought for the shower curtains, which were mentioned, that it'd be great if they were really kind of lush and felt really kind of, that could be a place where it could be really kind of verdant and everything growing a lot. So yeah, there could be something kind of bits kind of growing out a lot, and then kind of other bits where it's quite Spartan, and yeah, so it'd have to, it couldn't be really busy all the time.
Yeah.
And also probably financially not viable as well.
Oh, Karen?
Yes, I mean, it's really lovely, and I like what you said about the engagement, the engagement with staff and patients, and we'd obviously have to see how to make that work effectively. Do you see a space for collaboration with clinical staff and the imaging department as a whole, kind of across the various strands of the imaging research department, or was that something maybe?
I guess where I thought it, I mean, I guess I've been thinking kind of quite maybe a bit logically about how it could work just now, in terms of because each of the 3 floors has these kind of different themes. So I kind of had been thinking that each of the 3 floors would be kind of working on their own kind of artworks, but I don't really know what the staffing numbers are like, and And if it was something more that you kind of wanted it to be a kind of whole building approach and just kind of collecting all of the plants together initially, then that would also work fine. It would then just be kind of dissecting them together, and there would be potentially a opportunity if you know, COVID allows, that to bring the plants to make that into a workshop and have an individual artwork which could be displayed, you know, whether it's in the staff room or wherever, for the people who have collected the plants initially. Yeah. So.
Are you interested in any of the kind of working with any of the kind of clinical staff and finding out more about like the scanning itself? Was that something that was kind of interesting? I mean, I know it's tricky at the moment because of COVID, like you were saying. Is that something you're kind of interested in as well?
Yeah, no, I am. I think I would be, in terms of like how I could relate it to the plants and how I could relate it to the work. Like, for example, how they approach. I mean, I know, for example, the MRI works in different sections, but the other two forms of scanning don't. And so, like, how you would then interpret that into kind of how you take the parts of plant, the tongue twister, the plants apart, would be quite interesting. So, and even if they were to, like, yeah, to talk a bit more about their processes, would be interested before I kind of get it any further. I think that would be good.
We've got a couple more minutes. Is there anything else that anybody wants to ask Eleanor, or is there anything that Eleanor, that you want to kind of to ask us or kind of bring up at this point? Should I stop screen sharing actually? There we go, it's a bit bigger now.
I mean, I had been wondering about patient engagement, because it's obviously it's not a ward, it's people coming for, or people returning to the same space, kind of, well, for the same kind of, or they're just coming for one-off scans generally.
Well, lots of the time it'll be people just coming in once, actually, Eleanor.
Yeah.
You know, we will have a few patients that come back, you know, every year or so, something like that, but it's a kind of in and out sort of a place, really.
Okay. And so then
as a patient, my overwhelming memory of being there is being cold.
Okay.
Because of the machine process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been there quite a few times, yeah.
Okay.
Eleanor, although the patients may only come once, the staff are there every day.
Yes, no, I know, I'm quite acutely aware of trying to get them on site.
Yeah, just a small point, but it'd be nice if the staff loved it as well. Which one?
Yeah,
I'm not sure of Eleanor's faith in our artistic capability, though, with collecting things that might be interesting. So, but
definitely. No, actually, I think I mentioned to Sarah, I had to take my son to get a scan about 8 weeks ago, so I'm quite aware of the whole, like, just that patient journey, and just how it can feel when you're in a huge hospital and you've got nowhere, so you want to make it feel as just as kind of, well, clear but also welcoming as possible, was my kind of impression after that trip.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us and for sending your proposal in. I will be in touch as soon as I can. I imagine that will be like next week. But thank you very much for taking the time to put that together. And it is really beautiful, and thank you for coming to join us as well. Do let me know if you have any questions afterwards as well, so you can drop me an email, but I'll be in touch really soon.
Okay, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Okay, bye bye.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Okay, we're going to go straight on to the next artist. It's great hearing from people directly. So the next artist is, Faye's coming back. Oh no, she's gone. So I'm going to admit David now, and we'll do the same thing. So we'll go around and introduce ourselves, and then he'll do an introduction to his ideas. Well, can Faye hear us okay first? Can you hear us, Faye?
I can. I'm trying to set up on my laptop, so I'm actually joining you twice.
Yeah.
One on my phone, one on the laptop. I'm trying to work it out. Yeah, but I can hear everyone. Fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to let David in now.
That looks fun, Faye. I've never seen anyone do that before.
David's just connecting.
Hello.
Hi, David. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Hello, lovely to see you all.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. So my name is Sarah. I'm part of the arts team. So we've spoken on the phone and been in touch by email. So everybody's going to go around and just introduce themselves. And then we're going to have 5 minutes for you to show us your presentation and talk through your ideas. And then we'll have about 15 minutes or so to have questions afterwards. So I'm going to pass over to Karen. Janity.
Hi, David. I'm Karen, the head of Arts of the Trust. Welcome.
Hello.
Annabelle.
Hi, I'm Annabelle. I work as a visual arts manager for the Trust. I'm going to pass you to Karen Taylor.
Hey David, I'm Karen. I work in patient and public engagement, and I'm going to go downstairs to Christine.
Hi David, I'm Christine Peacock. I'm the radiology manager at the Brompton, and I'm going to pass you to Jackie.
Hello, David. I'm actually a patient, so I've got an idea about what it's all about.
Great. Yeah.
I'm going to pass you to Dudley.
Hi, David. I'm a doctor who runs the MR unit, and so I'm one of the professional team. I pass you now to Faye.
Faye.
Can you hear us, Faye? Oh,
Faye's disappeared.
Yes, it sounds good. Faye also works with Dudley in the MR team.
And Faye's someone who's rather artistic, and she has a company for which she makes glasses, so she's involved as well.
Brilliant.
Shall we start anyway? And I've looked her in.
Yeah. So so David, I thought you might like to, if you want to share. I don't know if you want to share your screen with us, or if you'd rather I did it, so that people can see parts of your proposals or any images. Would you like to do that, or would you like me to do it? If you want to. You don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really. I wasn't sure what the format was with this. I wasn't sure if I had to prepare a presentation or if it was more you guys chatting to me about what I've already given you, if you like. So I could take you through what I've put together as the PDF, and then I guess if anything kind of comes from that. Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really, like, I asked you if we needed a presentation, but I've got this. So yeah, I can share it easy enough. So yeah, I'll just share the first page of the so I've got host disabled attendee screen sharing. So maybe there's a setting or something. I'm sorry if I'm so dark as well. It's when the sun comes in my makeshift studio, so it's kind of quite bright.
Oh no, I was thinking it looked really nice.
Oh, does it? Okay, oh, that's good. I just look like I'm in the dark.
Well, maybe you can explain it. I don't. If you don't want to share it.
Yeah, or just talk us through like a few of your ideas. I mean, I can share the visuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, yeah, I was just trying to do that there, but it's not. It's just saying that it's disabled, so I can't share my screen with you. It's saying that the host is disabled.
So, Sarah, if you're the host, you have to give the guest permission to share.
I think it's a setting we'd have to change when we're not actually in a live meeting. So let's just go ahead.
Yeah, I can share. So I'll share the visuals so you can kind of just quickly. Everybody's had a quick look at this, but if you just wanted to briefly just talk about what your ideas were for like just a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes or so, and then we can go around and ask questions and just have a chat about it. Really.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well. Yeah. So I guess my main approach that I was thinking I would take with this was to break the building up into 3 distinct layers, which you guys had obviously already done with the colorways and considering the different levels with each machine. But what I kind of wanted to do was think about each layer as, think about the building as being a sort of scanner, or equally a slice of strata that would give us an idea of what is actually outside the building, and what can be visible at each level. So each level, so if there was a particular plant that grew at 10 meters, and a particular plant that grew at 4 meters, and a particular thing that grew in the ground, those would be reflected on the levels that matched. So there would be a kind of inherent sort of research and scientific led basis to the imagery, I suppose. So I was planning immediately for my initial idea is that any imagery would be kind of abstract in nature. It would reference what was found in the sort of outside landscape, but it wouldn't be explicit. So I wouldn't imagine drawing, plants particularly. I would be more interested in the sort of geometry or the structure and the sort of unseen elements of those plants. The idea of these unseen elements in an urban environment is really kind of what a lot of my practice is about, and I'd be really interested in kind of doing a kind of intense survey of what is actually available in this urban environment, and it kind of reflects what happens within the processes of a scan. Looking beyond the different layers and the sort of layers of information that are revealed within a scan. So yeah, I kind of wanted to apply that to the outside of, or the local area of Royal Brompton, to inform the visuals in the first instance. So yeah, I guess that would be my idea. In terms of how they would be applied, that would be something that I'd look to kind of work with your partners at the BAT Studio, and I'm quite research and concept and kind of context led, so I would really need to understand the space a bit better, and I want to kind of look at how those could be incorporated on walls, or the idea of looking through things and actually seeing things at the levels that they exist outside is something that's really important, I think. So I want to have that idea and give the sense that you're looking through something, and you're actually, and potentially there could be elements of images that kind of correspond to each other that will help with the wayfinding, so that there's almost like a puzzle to be solved wherever there's an intervention and artwork there. So yeah, I guess just looking at this, looking at the presentation piece here, the idea of the sort of these motifs being built just by simple forms is something I'm really interested in. So I could potentially, each level could potentially be based on a motif, or a square, or a sort of hexagon, or a sort of honeycomb that could then tessellate, and we could fit these sort of abstract structures within. And equally, that sort of reflects the scanning processes that I'm interested in, particularly that sort of sequential repeated scan, and repeat of an image. The moving strip installation at the bottom here, I kind of put this in because I referenced sort of sculptural elements within the pitch, or within the proposal, and I thought that would kind of give an idea. I'm not sure how appropriate it is to a waiting room situation if people are sitting and there's elements that are moving and whatnot, but I thought it was worthwhile considering a more sculptural approach rather than just images on walls. And again, this lenticular imagery here, where it's a sort of old surrealist trick where you have one image on one side and one image on the other, and that can be applied to printmaking quite easily. And I really like the idea of revealing something, and and again referencing the scanning technology that's available. That being a sort of integral idea within my whole proposal, I suppose, is it's referencing the technology and the processes that happen within the imaging centre, whilst also referencing the natural environment outside. So yeah, I guess that's a summation of what's on the screen right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Should we open up for questions again? If people want to kind of raise their hand or do the wave, if they have a question for David.
Will I stop seeing your screen? Yeah.
Oh, do you want me to stop? I can stop screen sharing if you want.
No, it's all right. I've just got people's faces so I can see any hands going up.
Oh.
If that's what you want to do, or I can.
I don't know if anybody's got any questions. I think you're being so super clear in your proposal. I don't know if
Right.
I don't know if you've got any questions. I guess I was imagining. Did I read? Were you at one point were you talking about like sculptures which were movable as well?
That's right. Yeah. Sorry. So the moving strip element at the bottom. So that was kind of something that I thought would be quite interesting if there was if each of those strips had a pattern, a texture of nature on them, or a texture derived from the research looking into the plant life around, that could make for a sort of a moving installation that would always change. So, you know, I would want to work with, you know, the architects and interior designers to make sure that there could be something that wouldn't clatter around and annoy people as they were sitting waiting. But you know, I think it could be something that would always change. You know, there wouldn't be the same thing to look at twice. So there would be an element of, if by adding that sort of animated element, yeah, something could change and would allow for sort of repeat viewings, if you like, and repeat interest found. I studied animation, so I've kind of got a background in sequential imagery and understand how that works. So, I mean, one thing I did think about putting in the proposal was the idea of adding sort of zoetrope elements so that we could actually reference the sequential scanning of something and make a sort of zoetrope, like old school. A zoetrope, it's an old sort of toy that would have sequential images and you'd spin it. Yeah. So, but you could also create that flat. So if you had a little wheel or knob that you twisted, and then you had that embedded within a wall, then if you just turn this knob fast enough, you would have something that kind of moved back and forth. And I don't know, that was something that it was an additional idea. I didn't feel, well, I kind of ran out of space in the proposal. So, yeah.
Karen's got a question.
Yeah, I love your ideas, David. I just maybe the silence is actually a really good sign. We're all kind of taking it in. I just had a quick question about. So are you London based, and how long do you see the research element kind of taking in terms of period of time? Now, how do you work? Do you kind of immerse yourself in the space? You should sort of inhabit the area, the medical space, if you were. How do you see the collaboration or the research happening?
Yeah, so I'm based in Edinburgh just now, and yeah, my sort of process is very much based on being in a particular place and kind of looking at and researching, and you know, when I worked at the House of Illustration, I would come down every couple of weeks and do a sort of research field work effectively, and then take that back to my studio in Edinburgh and develop it there. So research is kind of a big part of it. And I would envisage coming down and, well, depending on what restrictions are in place and whatever, you know, right now, I would intend to come down and kind of be quite, I want to say hands-on, but I was trying to think of a pun or a better way to say that. But anyway, come down and sort of like walk around and interact with people. As that's a big part of my process, is actually working with people and trying to allow for coincidence and incidents to kind of inform the work. That's why I kind of didn't initially put any imagery together, because it's all sort of starts with the words for me to start with, and then it goes into these stages. In terms of timings, it really would depend on the long-term timeline. I'm used to sort of working back, so if I had sort of concrete timelines to work back from, then I would kind of then look to basically produce a schedule, a timetable from that. And you know, I like to give a good chunk of the research, a good chunk of time to the research, but you know, it would just be dependent on. I know I looked at the timetable that you had previously, and I think we were already meant to be further on than it was. So I don't know if that was one of my questions as to what, you know, how the timetable has changed.
Timetable, if I may answer that one, is so the building opens in 2021. There's going to be, and what we have to beckon with is working with quite large partnerships of construction. You know, the construction team want to play super safe, like they're not going to let us to deliver something very close to the bone. So in terms of timeline, we're looking at producing designs by having like final designs by September, October, and allow a period of production. But this is for joinery and stuff, and since we're looking at signage and wayfinding, I suppose we could push that a little bit closer to the end of the year, but we probably would be looking at fabrication of actual final bits to be in the earlier part of the year at the very latest.
Okay.
The year next year, meaning, you know, January is like specific design sent off for fabrication as a 6-week lead time.
Okay. Yeah.
All of that needs to be confirmed. All of that needs to be confirmed.
Yeah. Well, I guess in the first instance, I'd be keen to get down as soon as and kind of do a recce of the area and understand. You know, I've never been, so it's quite hard to kind of. I really need to be places and go and have a look, and then wander around, get lost, and then kind of can take things from there. And I'd be keen to do that as part of workshops. I've led quite a lot of work, wayfinding and kind of map making workshops where I ask people to sort of reevaluate spaces, looking at like working with drawing and kind of looking through these viewfinders that I make. So yeah, I'd be interested to do that with people that know the area well, you know, patients or staff as well. And you know, I think that kind of plays a lot into what I was thinking with looking at plant life and looking at what things might be overlooked, and you know, looking at the idea of there being nature within an urban environment that we overlook. I don't know if you guys saw it. There was the More Than Weeds initiative that's kind of grown up was kind of blown up over the last few months with the lockdown. That there's people in London that there's a botanist in London that's going around kind of drawing charcoal, chalk on the ground and kind of pointing out things.
I've done it.
Yeah, that could be really interesting as a workshop to kind of implement that with drawing and kind of understanding the local area, maybe even collaborating with the botanist that runs that and trying to bring that in. I don't know, I think that could be an interesting part of the research to inform the final designs as well.
Sounds like living research. Thank you.
Yeah, really interesting. I can imagine the local residents as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Can we ask you a question about the signage? Because the statutory signage, we kind of spoke about this briefly on email. Statutory signage is with Murphy Phillips. And then part of this brief as well would be kind of influencing that and also possibly designing it, but we might also need to bring somebody else in to design it and also to work with Bat Studios. Is this something you might be able to do? So to kind of help with designing the actual signage itself, like the room names and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I spoke when you initially got in touch. When we chatted, I've kind of got a cross practice of this more sort of research. I don't like the word sort of fine art, but more research and concept-led work, and also my sort of design practice as well. So I kind of do a lot of, I'm quite experienced with doing design-based work and working with typography and working with, I've done some signing, I make quite a lot of maps for various organisations, the Scouts, and I've done, wayfinding for local art festivals and things like that as well. So it's certainly something I could get involved in and be comfortable talking with architects and other designers about how that might work with, and I'd be quite interested in actually trying to tie that in with the other concepts that we're kind of working with and looking at, and that's something I'm really keen for the building to not feel like there's this statutory signage and then my work. I would like there to be a connection and there to be, potentially, I think I spoke about it, but the idea of like repeat motifs or like a framework that can kind of work across the signage as well as the artwork, and then there's a kind of conversation between the two. I'm doing that a lot. Sorry, it's quite hard.
Don't worry. I normally do, but I'm writing at the same time.
Yeah, not at a rave on my own.
Just to jump in there, David, because I know we have to go, we have to move on, but just to say that the statutory signage has already been planned is very, very minimal. Like the scope is more or less 100% of the signage and wayfinding at the moment, as I understand it. We've got it in our remit.
Right, great, okay, brilliant.
Cool. Well, do you have? Are there any more questions, or have you got any questions for us? We have to.
Yeah, I guess I just well, yeah. One thing that is kind of like gnawing at me that I wanted to ask, and I put it in the proposal, but would it be possible to use the machines to create imagery? Is that something that would be allowed, just as an idea, as a concept?
Christine and Dudley question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It depends what sort of thing you want to do. We could probably arrange it. Yeah. We'd have to have a little think about it beforehand, and just obviously you need one of our radiographers sort of with you, or we have done odds and ends before. We've done flowers and things like that we've sort of x-rayed, and one of the bits of arts on the wall in our waiting room is an x-ray of my handbag, I think.
Right, okay.
So we could do that. We'd have to be a bit careful about time-wise, because we wouldn't have a whole day or anything. But if we sort of had a plan of what we were going to do beforehand, I'd be open to that from my point of view.
Great. Yeah, because I guess that would be, for me, that would be really fascinating to try and make work that is actually, fundamentally and intrinsically connected to the place, that could lead to things that I can't imagine right now. So, finding a plant that grows outside and then putting it through a scan and then allowing that to then inform the design feels like it could be something that was interesting. So, yeah, I'm glad I wasn't just being silly with that. But yeah, I guess that's really, I guess the timescale is just something that I would want to be kind of firmed up as soon as, and I wondered if there was any, well, this is just going down the next stage, but I would be keen to see like the 3D space visualized at some point, but those are questions for later, I'd imagine.
I don't think I've seen any 3D models of the space. Are there?
There were some that we did when we were planning the rooms, just of individual rooms. I'm not sure. I think Kia have some, but they had a headset that we had to use on a particular day or something. So I'm not sure. I don't know. They might be able to sort something out.
I think it's fair to say that the architect's idea of a 3D space and what you might see in something like a movie or virtual reality, they're very far.
Yeah.
I mean, the 3D images were very clunky indeed. They didn't help me much.
Okay.
Cool. Well, unless there's any more questions, I think we'll need to move on. But thank you so much, David. Thank you so much for taking the time to put the proposal together. It was really beautiful. And thank you so much for coming to talk to us as well. And I'll be in touch really soon.
Okay.
Probably be next week now. But do let me know in the meantime if you've got any kind of questions or anything. But otherwise, I'll be in touch next week.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and great to meet you all.
Thank you for your time.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Thanks, David. Bye.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Really. I love his ideas and investigative elements. Okay.
One of the things, I mean, what's interesting to me was about his use of abstract, and I think that it's not a literal interpretation of what the brief is. I thought that was fascinating, and the fact that there's already lots of lenticulars within the collection that will be on display there, and I love the idea of that. Although I don't know how they would work on that scale. I've got no sense of that. It could be really interesting, or really just not work at all. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has seen them on that size. I certainly haven't before, but interesting.
Really good ideas.
Karen, you may remember I dropped you a line about the
Yes.
BRU artwork, which I've got in my office.
I know I haven't been coming into Brompton at all, but I'll be coming in on Friday next week.
Yes, so other than just moving it, the point I was going to make is there's a number of lenticulars in that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the region of, what were they, about 1 metre by 60 centimetres or something like that. There's several of them. They're very beautiful, I must say.
Move on. We've got
How
Enya in the
practical are they in
waiting
the current
room.
climate?
Just admit her.
Yeah, I'm going to let Enya in now. So she's the next
Take a
artist.
couple of minutes for her to begin.
Get set up and stuff. Yeah.
No, I could spend a bit of time researching the size of lenticulars and how that works. Actually, I don't think you can. Can you hear us now, Enya?
Hear us? Oh, you're on mute. Let's see if I can.
See if I muted you.
Can you hear us
Is
okay?
that good?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah,
good. Hi, nice to meet you all.
Thank you for joining us, Enya. Lovely to meet you. So we're going to go around and introduce ourselves. You've met me already, like on the phone and email. So I'm Sarah, part of the arts team. I'm going to pass over to Karen J.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm the head of arts at Royal Brompton Harefield Richards Foundation Trust.
Nice to meet you.
Annabelle.
Hello, I'm Annabelle. I work as a visual arts manager for the Trust. I'm going to pass you to Karen Taylor.
Hello, I'm Karen. I work in patient and public engagement. We'll go to Dudley this time.
Oh, changing the order, that's confusing. I'm Dudley Purnell. I run the MR unit, one of the doctors involved in doing the scanning in the New Imaging Centre. Over to Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm the radiology manager at Brompton. I'm going to pass you over to Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie. I'm a retired professional who's now a patient. Pass you over to Faye.
Oh, hi, I'm Faye. I work for the cardiac MRI as well, along with Dudley.
That was everybody.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I thought for the first 5 minutes or so, I thought you might like to just do a quick introduction to your ideas. You can screen share your proposal if you wanted to, like the visuals, or let me know and I can do it. Oh, actually, I think I have to do it for you. So I can screen share them for you if you want, so that you can reference them.
I think if you just allow, it will be okay. I tested it earlier, so I've got a few different things. So if I press, so host disabled attendee screen share. So if you just enable it, it will share.
I don't know how to enable it, but I just made you a co-host, and then people should be able
Okay.
to.
Let me try again. There we are, yeah. Okay, so this is my proposal, which I put together for you all. So my idea is essentially to create these different kind of brush work that can kind of guide the patients throughout the hallways and on their way to the different designated areas, the different reception areas. So the thing that I'm most sort of concerned with is making it as accessible as possible, making sure I myself struggle in stressful situations with reading signs and navigating. So, and I actually have undergone MRI and things like that. So I know how it can be hard to figure out which direction to go in. So I'm thinking of creating a color scheme as was suggested by you guys, and a use of motifs and sort of symbolism. So these pink marks are sort of indicative of the cherry blossom, and then this would be a green route to the different areas. And I wanted to create a sense of being led throughout, but definitely a sense of arrival. So there would be a a rival piece, say a mural or a larger scale installation, or integrated into the furniture. I spoke with Bat Studios with John C, and he seems really nice. So we shuffled some ideas back and forth, and it sounds like they'd be really easy to work with in order to make it as integrative as possible. And then as for the sort of patient and staff workshops, I would, because of the situation, the current situation, I'd hope to do something after. And also, a lot of wayfinding in my research found that it's only really as the dust settles with a building, or that, and the patients and staff just know it better. So getting them to kind of look at brushwork, perhaps creating some of their own, but maybe just picking out brushwork that they particularly identify with, and placing those in different places. And these are kind of the concept piece of them being kind of fractal pieces. So just it being a smaller piece. And because I really so enjoyed this project. I really enjoyed doing lots of reading into how we relax and what it is in the natural landscape that causes us to sort of switch off, and the curiosity of it all. So I read on fractals and how that is really important to our relaxation within the natural landscape. And I kind of included these different areas, so you just got more of a sketchy notebook idea of how I've been handling the pieces myself. So I don't know if you can see me in the top right-hand corner, but this is one that I made. So you get a sense of how kind of transferable they are. And this is an oil painting, but the idea is that we print them, and then this would make it most cost effective, and be able to be wiped clean for the medical setting. And then this was just to show a bit of your bamboo ply next to some natural kind of terrazzo, and just different ideas of how I could aid in the design work. So if I just take you up here, I'll give you kind of a video piece of a piece that I did last summer with a scientist, that gives you a sense of scale. I just feel like a video kind of shows these installations better. So bear with me.
Yeah.
Great. So this was a piece that I did in collaboration with a researcher at Imperial, and it was displayed for the Medical Research Council Festival. And it was just showing how green space affects us, or encloses us and protects us in an urban environment, and creates those little pockets. It was a really great collaboration. I'm really enjoying collaborations at the moment, so that's good. And then similarly, this is what I created during quarantine, just in my hallway, of the sort of painted pieces that I created that were in the proposal. So this is just the hallway at home, just to try and get an idea of how I could sort of put them into corners, around corners, and yeah. So what else have I got? Yeah, I think that's
cool. Thank you very much. Should we move on to questions now? Because I'm aware that we've got kind of a limited amount of
Sure, absolutely.
time. Karen straight in there with a question.
Yeah, well done on actually making the commission for your quarantine. It's interesting. It's really beautiful. Well done. I just wondered, did I understand that you said you would prefer to do a retrospective fit, actually kind of seeing how the building functions before you can actually add all of these bits?
Sorry, could you speak a little slower?
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering, did you say that you would probably think of doing a retrospective fit, as in painting it once the building had been inhabited for a bit? Is that what you?
Well, I propose. Oh, that's why you guys are small, is because I'm still on screen share. I propose having these pieces already, the larger works already installed, so that we've kind of worked out our idea of what would be the best wayfinding, because I'm sure that we can kind of figure that out. But I was thinking for the as the building settles, having workshops where we have smaller works that are mirror images of the larger pieces placed in various places that we might have overlooked because there's just people from different backgrounds and different abilities that might want it somewhere else.
I think it's a really interesting point, actually, and it's a very valid point as well, because you only find out what's missing or how to do things better after you've lived in it for a little bit. I suppose the only comments I would make about that is about being able to sort of earmark spaces, because if we don't say where we want things in these circumstances, it just ends up being filled. The spaces get filled in too quickly.
Right.
I don't mean could be like posters. It could be we have to muscle in on these opportunities.
Oh right, I see. Well, like I say, the larger pieces that would be installed prior, so you have that grand opening, and it will be thought about. It will be a wayfinding strategy already. It will just give the patients and staff an opportunity to put their mark on things as well.
Yeah. And would you consider actually doing the wayfinding strategy as well? Is this something that would be...
Yeah, absolutely. You mean
leading it, I suppose. That's what I mean.
Oh, leading it. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to. Yeah. It's funny, I'm an oil painter, but as time goes on, I'm doing lots of my own exhibitions and working with designers. So I've worked with architects and interior designers in the past and things, and it just gives you a sense of space and direction. And I kind of am like that anyway, because of being dyslexic, I definitely need a visual stimulation. So like even with my notes for our meeting, I've got like little like pictures. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the kind of the signage as well? If it was also to include like doing like the room signage, have you had to do that before, like where you've designed the actual kind of signs themselves, if that was to become part of it, which is kind of what Karen was saying with the wayfinding?
Okay, I see. I would be hoping to collaborate with BAT on that. I'm thinking to create, at the minute, my rough idea is to have a backdrop that correlates the colors with the motifs and the symbolism, and to kind of CNC a lettering on top. So to cut out letters on through, say, a bamboo. I've worked with like carpenters in the past, and I'm sure like BAT would kind of create a lettering for the front, so you could see through to the paintwork. So the detailing of the signage and the lettering would be in the paintwork. Does that make sense?
So it kind of go on top. Is that how you're imagining? So it'd be like wood, and then on top. I'm trying to visualize.
Well, it really depends, but I was thinking the wood is cut out, so the letters themselves are see-through, and then onto the back is paint of maybe a fade or some sort of thing that correlates with the breadcrumbs.
Ah, okay, so the same kind of, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So same colours and.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you see, like, are you interested in that kind of like researching? What would you be interested in kind of researching at the hospital or with clinical staff and patients? Is there something which has really kind of grabbed you that you would want to kind of really research and kind of find out about?
Yeah, well, I guess I'd want to see what makes them feel the most relaxed and what they grab hold of in order to create a better atmosphere for themselves in the day-to-day. I think that everyone has a personal connection with nature, and I'm really interested in how biophilia, the design aspect, can aid in their recovery. So see how, I'd like to create like an open forum of the artwork being created to get that kind of feedback and be able to ask patients and staff some of their experiences.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions they'd like to ask Enya? Do you have any questions you'd like to ask us? Oh.
I think she's frozen.
Oh. Oh, let's see if she comes back in a moment.
Poor time. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm back with you, back in the room.
Do you have any questions that you want to ask us? We've got a couple more minutes, so it'll be quite quick.
No, I mean, unless no, I think I'll save my questions for whether I get the project, because there'll be many questions, and I'm really excited to get a chance to ask all of them. But yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to put together the proposal and for coming to meet us all. And I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch really soon. I'll be in touch like next week. But let me know if you've got any questions in the meantime. Just drop me an email. But otherwise, I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Sarah, and lovely to meet you all.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
She was lovely. I really like her.
She seems really capable, doesn't she?
Yeah, and very mature. I think she could do the job. It's quite abstract, the pieces that she's presented.
I have to say, I love the designs. I did like those designs.
Yeah, me too.
The first image with
it looks really soothing.
Blue and mauve and pink forms was very stunning.
Yeah.
I must say, I immediately woke up big time.
I'm going to let the next artist in now. So this is Grace. So this is the last one, and then hopefully we'll have time for a bit of a chat afterwards as well.
I'm going to jump off at 6:30, but I won't say anything. I'll just leave.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Christine. Let me know if yeah, drop me an email after.
I'll check the log, you know, if I miss anything.
Hi, Grace. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Thank you very much for joining us. My name's Sarah, so we've already met kind of on the phone and by email and stuff. So I'm going to go around, we'll all introduce ourselves, and then you'll have about 5 minutes to kind of talk through your ideas, and you can share your screen on your proposal if you wanted to. Yeah. And then we've got about 15 minutes afterwards for questions and a bit of a chat. So I'm going to pass over to Karen J.
Hi there, I'm the head of arts at the Trust. Nice to meet you. Annabelle is next to me.
Hi Grace, we've met before when you did the Crafterloom for us. It's lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to pass you to Karen.
Hi Grace, I'm Karen Taylor. I work in patient and public engagement. It's nice to meet you. Oh, sorry, I forgot to pass the baton on. I'm going to pass it on to Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm a patient of the hospital. I'm going to pass to Dudley.
Hi Grace, I'm a doctor and I run the MR unit, so I'm one of the people who'll be working down in the department quite a bit and hopefully looking after the patients. Faye?
Hi, I'm Faye. I also work for Cardiac MRI as a lead administrator.
Christine?
Hi,
Oh, sorry, yeah, pass on to Christine.
Christine, I'm the radiology manager at Brompton.
Thank you, everybody. So Grace, did you want to share your screen with us, or would you like me to, or do you want to kind of talk through your ideas?
Yes, I do have my proposal here, so let me just share my screen. Can everybody see what I'm showing you here?
Hey.
Not yet.
Sometimes it takes, 10 or 20 seconds, so be patient.
Right.
Have you got the button, the green button at the bottom?
Yes. There we go. Right. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect, brilliant. You have to bear with me. I'm getting to learn the world of Zoom, so that's something, it's a bit of a learning curve. That's great. Okay, so taking you through my proposal, I really enjoyed the process of going through all the documents that were sent over, so learning a bit more about the history of the site, but also the vision for the new building, the new department, and all of the various kind of research areas and themes that are connected to that, especially to do with nature. Because the way I describe myself, I'm an illustrator mark maker. So it sounds a little bit abstract, but there are two different sides to my practice. There is the mark making, which is the pattern making, slightly more open to interpretation. And then there is the figurative, commercial-based illustration. And a real kind of central area of my illustration style is based around nature and botanical illustration. So it seems like these two parts could match up really well. As well as being an illustrator, I'm also an educator and I work for lots of different places. So I tend to make my process quite inclusive, my research process. So I go into different environments and there's a real well-being and medical or scientific aspect to my work as well, which I think is relevant for this brief. So the vision I had for this commission in particular is separating that practice and the brief really into three different parts. So it's using mark making as mapping. So that's approaching the wayfinding, the journey of the commission, so the graphics, and also the idea of navigating visitors, patients and staff kind of through the department. But also then going into the microcosm. So the microcosm is all about the destinations, so the actual artworks themselves, where I envisage being in the main reception area and also the waiting areas where people are actually going to be sitting and engaging more with the artwork as opposed to passing through or navigating. And then there is the engagement plan, so mark making as mindfulness. I envisage the engagement to be both kind of before, during and after, really. So it's real kind of engagement with patients, visitors, members of the public, and also again staff and clinicians themselves. So whether that's handling, conversational sessions, or actually mark making and creative sessions themselves, I see it all marrying together into one kind of process. So I've taken you through on the first page a little bit about that vision. Previously I've designed packs for clinical settings, so I've worked with RB&H Arts before, doing some different workshops with mark making actually for that, so bringing the mindfulness, but recently collaborated with the CRIC, and also as part of my ongoing residency, as I've mentioned, I've actually collaborated with architects and interior designers to translate what's really decorative about my artwork into something that's meaningful on a really sensory level. So everything I do, and especially with this commission here, I would want it to be accessible. So mark making can be seen to be really busy and very over the top, but actually what I wouldn't want it to be that. Every pattern or decoration would be really considered, not just from a visual aspect, so it would look very beautiful, but from a touch or interactional kind of aspect as well to do with navigating. So my work, my ongoing work for over 2 years now with people with dementia, is that to really factor that in. So using specific colours, using repetition, using different textures, as I say, to really navigate a journey, which is also really valuable for children, for lots of other people as well, not just those with dementia, but people with any kind of disability. So working with levels as well, I see the mapping. So if I go to the design page, it will be a bit clearer what I'm meaning by that. So with the mapping, I envisage it being quite simple. So that's really key, that it's a set of symbols. So I'm thinking about the idea, the concept of this terrarium, the idea of bringing a garden or bringing nature inside. But as a mapping, this would be pared down to very simple circles of different colours for different departments that then maybe had textures depending on if they're signs to touch, so smaller signs, or whether it's kind of displays in corridors. There'd be much larger circles kind of navigating you through. Maybe that then follow through into the colours of the walls, the colours of the doors. Everything would be really considered and married together. So as I say, it would look very light, very beautiful, very engaging. And I think Batch Studios' aesthetic relates quite nicely to that really graphic shape and those circles layered with materials. But then when you get to the destinations, so you've used the mark making as mapping to travel through corridors, stairwells and lifts. Once you get to those destinations, which I envisage to be either main reception areas or waiting areas, you then go into the experience or the environment of the artworks that would be in seating areas. So then it's mirroring those circles, but now the circles would have transformed into really decorative art pieces. I've given you some examples there. These aren't designs that I have specifically designed for this proposal. These are just a collection of my illustrations that I've slightly adapted with some of the materials to just show you how you could go from a basic circle to a design or an artwork featuring mark making. I know the brief wants to be quite contemporary, so I've tried to incorporate those different styles in there.
Cool, thank you very much, Grace. Does anybody, I'm going to open up to questions now. Does anybody have any questions for Grace? So Karen.
I did have you mentioned sensory and textile, and which sounds really quite interesting. Have you done that before, and how would you achieve it in a clinical setting?
Yeah, so a lot of what I do is for surface design, which means that the drawings, everything's made by hand, but then it can be edited to be vector design, which makes it really adaptable for any kind of surface. So that could be fabrics and textiles, it could be vinyls or plastics, things which are much more hygienic. So really what I would envisage is creating an identity which works well. It can be pared back for symbols, so it's really kind of distilled to its most simple form, or it can be very decorative for a piece of artwork. So I've mentioned kind of transferring onto recycled perspex, so it's almost like the terrarium glass. Working with light as well. I want to be as kind of immersive as possible, because what I often try to get away from is that idea of art is there to be looked at and seen in quite a one-dimensional way. So I figure the architecture could really play into that. So in terms of surfaces and fabrics, I think it would be a really nice kind of repeat thread to take through then into patient bays. It could be the print on the curtains, as I've mentioned in my proposal. It could be, a print on top of other surfaces like tables. It could be really adaptable to create that coherent narrative throughout, which I think could work really well.
Thank you.
Oh, Sarah, I can't hear you.
Okay. I was just going to ask a question about signage and whether, because part of the wayfinding as well, because statutory signage is kind of taken by Murphy Phillips, and part of this would be influencing and kind of taking part in the actual signage itself, like around the building. Is that something you would kind of feel comfortable with, like designing that, or like working with somebody else to do it, or have you had experience of doing it, the actual kind of room names and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I collaborate a lot. I mean, my background is in visual communication, which does encompass graphic design as well. But I often collaborate with graphic designers and have done for the care home settings as well, where they might kind of work with me on a typeface or the type setting, but I would then very much work on the visuals of bringing that together with a set of symbols. So very simple symbols that can be visual, but also, as I say, based on colours. Colour is so important, especially for repetition, as I say, or kind of navigating through as well as reading something. So I would envisage working on every element with a graphic designer or kind of within my own practice to, as I say, kind of marry all that together.
Cool. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Grace? Do you have any questions? That means everybody's got your brief really well, so it's like really nice and clear. Do you have any questions for us? Or is there anything you kind of want to ask us about or tell us about?
So I think there's one thing I wanted to, which I didn't quite mention when I was doing my introduction before, is that I think this is a real opportunity for some of the patients, some of the staff to actually get involved in the design, not in a sense of a display. So I don't mean that these artworks are going to be like display boards featuring patient or staff drawings within them, but I just mean if we do the mark making workshops beforehand, some of those textures could be taken and then manipulated by me to be incorporated into a framework. And I think that just, even if it's quite subtle, it could be quite subconscious on one level, it's just kind of integrating and bringing everything together. So I think that's one of the main aspects. And it brings in, again, kind of, I've said about the terrarium, it's the cherry tree, which starts from root through to bloom and then, through to bud and then into bloom, going from the basement to the ground to the first floor, but also bringing in areas of kind of multicultural, the community. So a terrarium lends itself to lots of different plants from all around the world. So that's the real narrative that I've kind of spent some time building. But I think the questions for you, I'd be fascinated about what could be the process of maybe meeting some of the staff, meeting some of the patients. I mean, obviously it's all a bit unclear right now, kind of face-to-face meetings, but would that be a possibility?
It's quite hard to tell at the moment. I mean, we could kind of arrange. So we're arranging like a patient engagement event with for Bat Studios, so that they can kind of talk and get some feedback from patients. So that's a possibility at the moment. I mean, in terms of going forwards and when things like that might be able to happen, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the services is working, isn't it? Christine's gone, Dudley.
Christine's gone. I think Dudley might still be there.
Or Faye might know.
Yes, we are.
Sorry, I'd like to just mute and stop the video during the presentation.
We're just wondering whether actually patients have started to get scans again at Wolverhampton.
Yes, we started on Tuesday.
So potentially it's possible. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just we just have to look at social distancing as a new measure to be built into any engagement with staff and patients. But nothing is impossible, and everything just has to be thought of and slightly more pre-planned.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the idea, if I were successful in my proposal, I think the idea of actually working with Bat Studios as well, I really like the idea of doing a handling session in collaboration with them if they would want to do that. So again, it's just kind of demystifying that design process and making it something that's really engaging and quite inclusive as well. So, having swatches of different fabrics, different woods, different materials, and making it almost an archive. I really am one for objects. So, it operates on many different levels, as I say, in terms of navigation. So I think it's quite an exciting, to me, it seems like a very exciting prospect to work with Bat Studios, to work with yourselves, to come up with a really comprehensive design that isn't just decorative. And that's something that I really am quite passionate about, especially in clinical settings.
Cool. Thank you very much, Grace. Do we have any last questions? Are there any last questions you want to ask us before we wrap up? Cool. Thank you very well. I just want to say a big thank you for putting together the proposal and for coming to meet us and to talk to us about your ideas. I will be in touch probably next week now, but if you have any questions or anything, just do drop me an email. But otherwise, I will be in touch with you next week.
Okay, thank you so much and pleasure to meet everybody.
Thank you,
Grace.
Take care.
Thanks, Grace.
Bye.
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 If I may, Sarah, well done for getting all of this together, actually.
Yeah, well done.
Very well organized and very high
Is
quality.
it possible to circulate the actual presentation from all the artists? Unless it's been sent, I didn't get one.
Oh, of course, yeah, you should have got it. Sorry, Faye, shall we send that now? I'll forward that now.
Thank you.
It's in the public folder, but yeah, there's quite a few. So their CVs are in there as well, so you can have a look.
Okay.
Have a look through.
I've got two of my favourites.
How do we want to? Because we've got until tomorrow, so a few people couldn't make it, but hopefully they'll have a look at like the video, and they've got the criteria that we're looking at. So I've asked people to kind of rank from like the first choice. Should we go round and I can kind of make a note of people's first choice? Or we can just have a chat with. Should we just have a chat about who? Karen, which ones? What did you think? Which one? I mean, they're all so good. They're all so good.
Are you talking to Karen Taylor or Karen?
Oh, Karen Taylor, sorry. I forgot. I can't.
Sorry, I was confused. I didn't know who you were talking to. I suppose if I had to choose one right away, I don't think I could. But I really liked the idea of the lenticular, and I liked that very abstract approach. So I think he would be one of my first choices. And I really like the third artist as well. I think they're my two that I'm sort of going between, because I really liked her big, bold colours. I really liked her artwork. I liked especially as well what she said about not actually completing the work all in one go, but coming back to finish it and add bits, because it's always been my experience that projects like this are never actually quite right first time round. I don't know. They would be my first two choices. If I had to choose between them, I would be tempted to maybe work with her rather than with him, because she just seems like she's got an interesting approach. He felt a bit dry to me sometimes, but that's just my personal opinion rather than something that's based on the proper criteria or selection. But I think for me it's those two.
Is that Enya? Dudley, what did you think of all of them, and do you have favourites? Oh, sorry, you having to. Shall I do Faye? I think I should do Faye first. So you can.
Can we have some, Dudley? What are you sharing?
It's absolutely delicious, and I'm not showing it to you. I actually completely agree with Karen Taylor. My favourites are 2 and 3. I was terribly taken with Enya Lachman-Curl. I thought her designs were terrific, and I thought she was a delightful person, easy to work with. I'm sure they all are. So I'm a man of few words. I would go for number 3, with backup being David Beard.
So Enya is your first choice, and then David is second.
I'm not going to show you me eating.
Fair enough. Faye.
I would agree with Karen as well. I really like David's artwork, but I think Enya, she's got so much potential, and it's beautiful to look at, and it looks soothing. I mean, I like the abstract art what David did, but maybe for some patients, maybe a bit confusing. So David and Enya will be my top choices, but if I have to choose one of them, probably would go with Enya.
Karen Janity.
Well, I think I think we've got kind of a consensus building on Enya. I think her work is really tangible and very clear, and also she would be no trouble. She would just get on and do it collaboratively. She would do it research-based, evidence-based. She would just do an excellent job, I think. I'd be in total confidence about her doing the work. But I am utterly, completely, I kind of fell in love with David's proposal in a way. Not when he sent it at all. I couldn't bear reading all that text. I was just like not interested. But actually kind of talking to him and the process and the research behind it and the investigative research of actually inhabiting a space and really make it really truly unique. And I thought that's something that we couldn't lose. I'd like to propose that we go with potentially Enya and actually give something else to David for like a big piece in the main waiting room, for example, and as a possible.
That's a good idea, actually. I think David, could do the main sort of feature art piece, isn't it?
I should think the whole journey of him from the start to finish, the whole process and the little artwork that we'd see appearing across the trust, the trunks, the chalk on the floor, all of that kind of, the intangibles and all of the building up to it, creating in sense a narrative and story and connecting people that way is so strong.
I mean, even
and it's fun as well. It's really fun to look at.
And it's playful, exactly, it's playful. But I do agree on the fact that I think his approach is maybe too complicated in terms of wayfinding. It might be confusing. It's a bit cold. It's a bit cold for me in terms of, and I think Enya brings that sort of warmth, and she's done research on well-being, and she comes from that perspective, and I think it's necessary in that space to counter the mechanical strength.
If you look at David's proposal, it was very egocentric. It was all me this, I that, my outcomes rather than the outcomes we're after as well, which immediately put me off. I liked Eleanor's using the patients to do something which ties in with the Cambridge's tree, but also I like Enya's work. So they would be my top two, Enya and Eleanor.
Enya and Eleanor.
Would you have have you got like a first and second, or are they on an even pegging?
They're on even pegging, really, yes. Grace's and David's, all this stuff about sensory, and touching everything. You can't really have that sort of artwork at the present, and who knows for how long.
Valid point, yeah.
You don't want to be encouraging people to touch at the minute, which maybe for years to come, nobody knows.
That is true.
I agree with you actually, Jackie, and I did sort of think quite immediately that David wouldn't be a kind of a collaborative type. It definitely is a research type, but not necessarily a collaborative type. So in terms of but I still think there would be scope for engagement with patients, but it wouldn't be the same as co-design. Or maybe I got that wrong, I don't know.
Well, I did think that about him until, because I was going to ask him about like participation and stuff, but then right at the end he did sort of go into how he like runs workshops and does the viewfindery things and stuff, and then he actually seemed quite animated when he was talking about that. So but yeah, I love David. I just love all his ideas and stuff, and I think he's just got so many like wonderful kind of like, I don't know, thoughts about the building and the layers and everything. I think he would be amazing, but again I do worry that it would be, I don't know, that the actual finished product, without knowing all that information, all that kind of interesting research is done behind it, I don't know how visually, someone just walking in like looking at what he's done, whether it would carry through kind of thing. But and Enya again, I think sorry, what was that, Jackie?
With her being dyslexic as well, she obviously has a problem finding her way around. So she's a good example anyway.
I thought her presentation was really lovely, and I think I love the way she was sort of saying you'd get to sort of like a sort of finished kind of arrival piece. That's what she sort of said, didn't she? I really like that kind of idea about it, and that looked really beautiful, and she seemed lovely as well. I think she would be you know, really easy to work with. But I thought Eleanor's was really lovely as well, and like a kind of playful kind of ness about it. And yeah, and Grace is kind of very sort of technical and stuff. But yeah, I think probably mine would be between David and Enya. But
I did. Grace reminded me a little bit of the kind of process that Jack Seifert did, which was really lovely, actually, kind of working with staff and patients, doing workshops, getting kind of the mark making, the design, and actually, so I'd be completely confident that she'd do something fantastic.
Yeah, that level of engagement with staff and patients, I think, would be amazing with her. And you know, it would be a bit like, you know, with, you know, years ago when we did the Emily Allchurch project in transplant, and it's still like, you know, today, like staff and patients are still like, oh yeah, I did that kind of bit, and that's such a lovely kind of run through for a project. So, but
she wants it all to be very sensory, which is just not practical now.
But I think it's, you know, she's talking about some of the workshops and stuff being sensory, but I think, you know, with, you know, obviously the current climate, you know, it would just have to be adaptable. But yeah, it's tricky.
I guess because she works in clinical settings, like she's really aware of like how it would need to adapt, and obviously at the moment everybody's adapting to, you know, where we are and circumstances. So I think she'd be quite good at that. I mean, obviously I love all of them because I've been talking to them and like and looking at them all. I kind of really, I mean, I really would want to see like David's investigative journey. Like I find his ideas really exciting as an artist, and like where he would kind of go with it and where he would take it. And he seems really excited. Like you can see him getting really, you know, interested in an idea, and you can see that he has like a personal approach because it is his work, and like he makes his own work, and that work is about a journey and you know, discovering a place. So I can see why he's made it sound a lot about him, is because his own work is about a journey and how to take people on a journey. So I would really love to, kind of to see what he would do. But I really loved Eleanor's, actually. Like I kept on coming back to it. Like I read through them all again earlier on today, and whenever I look at like her drawings, they really make me smile, and they really make me feel quite calm. And for me, like she feels like almost like a kind of a merging of like Enya's style and like David's kind of investigativeness and his kind of research process. I really liked that thing of you know, using the kind of pressed flowers and then kind of taking those and leading people on like a really clear journey. And they just really made me smile. I really like them. I mean, I like all of them, so
I think that she had one of the nicest like public engagement approaches.
Yeah.
That it was very clear how, you know, people's work would the process would contribute to the finished work, and that was maybe missing for me from some of the other presentations. I wasn't quite sure how the engagement would actually inform and part of. Whereas with her, it was very, very, because she was literally interpret them, but with oil paint. I mean, I thought it was a lovely, lovely idea to be teaching patients and staff how to sort of press plants and flowers from the location. But equally, yeah.
So I think the thing with Enya is that I still don't quite get a sense of exactly what she would want to be kind of researching, and like what she would kind of bring into it. Like I know what it would look like, but I still don't quite get that sense of what her process would be, which is almost the opposite of David's, because I'm really clear about what the process would be in that kind of investigation. Not entirely sure what the end outcome would be, whereas with Enya I kind of know what the end outcome will be, but I don't know what the process would be as much.
So that's not something we're necessarily scoring them in terms of how we select them, is it?
No, well, it's artistic quality, how they engage with the themes, engagement with staff and patients, sustainability. No, not kind of how we're scoring them. I guess it's just how interesting, how like engaging it would be to kind of as an idea. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, no, it's not something we're actually kind of scoring them against in that sense.
Yeah, I liked Enya's proposal much more after seeing her and meeting her today, because when the last proposal, I kind of wrote her off a little bit because of that reason. I thought her work is a bit one-dimensional. There's not really much. It's beautiful, and I think it would look stunning in the space, but there's just, as you say, not for a really big project. The research kind of area of it is not really there at the moment, is it? But then it depends on how much of that you want to come through.
Yeah, and I'm sure she probably would. Like, if we kind of said, well, you've got this amount of time to meet with clinical staff, I'm sure she probably would, because she's kind of worked collaboratively with quite a few people on other projects. So maybe it's just a case that she would further down the line once she got started.
Well, Enya's proposal did actually mention working with staff and patients.
Yeah, it didn't quite say what on. Like, I know that they would be, so the idea of patients kind of working with her brush strokes and kind of adding them on afterwards, which was really nice. And it was nice seeing one as well and seeing that kind of flexibility. But I'm still not too sure how it would be at the beginning bit. But I might have missed it because yeah. Should we? Well, we need to kind of gather the votes from other people who haven't been able to make it. So I can get people to kind of send them in, because Christine hasn't had a chance to kind of say who she really kind of liked and kind of comment on all of them.
My internet disappeared during Enya's presentation as well, so I missed the first part of hers.
So Jackie, I'll put the recordings on YouTube tonight. In fact, I'll do it as soon as we end, and I'll share that with Sarah so she can circulate. And Faye hasn't had the proposals in the first place, so maybe we send them all with the recording.
Okay, thank you.
A link, it would just be a link.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Enya seems to be the strongest contender, though, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Would everyone around the table here believe that's the case? 1, 2, 3. Anyone?
I guess so. Yeah, but I am really interested to see David's work. Yeah.
I feel it would be a real shame to let all his ideas go.
Maybe we could bring him in for some other project.
I think so. I think there's definitely scope for that, to be honest, because we have a couple of large halls in the waiting room, which we've always kept. We haven't mentioned to any of the artists because we wanted to sort of have that flexibility of having something really sort of, something that keeps you looking at it for long periods of time. And I suppose none of the artists so far have kind of demonstrated that they would create that layer of depth. And actually, David, for me, really just sort of calls for that sort of constantly looking at something, but finding something new, different layers and the meaningfulness related to the site and the research, etc. So, and actually working with the clinical team, wanting to actually use the scanners, and I think it's really embedded into the whole department as a whole. It felt really strong on that, I thought.
Yeah.
And Enya on the practical side of the wayfinding and signage, which is quite a practical and affair really. She has spent a lot of time speaking to Bat Studio. She took it upon herself to speak to them and explore opportunities with them, and that's really proactive, and she's slick. She's she wanted that commission, and she really puts effort into it.
Well, the fact that she decorated her hallway, right, just to show us, and for the fit, I was like, wow, that woman really
had an easel by her. It was very good.
Yeah.
She was on it.
Should we do a quick vote, even though I know who was kind of first, but should we do a quick vote so I can just jot it down? So who votes Enya as their first choice?
Me.
Karen.
That's 4, 5.
I've got 4. Who was the other?
So there was Karen and Faye and Jackie and Dudley and I.
Aye. Jackie. Yeah, that's 5. Who votes for David?
I'm going to give David my vote.
Dudley, you can't vote twice. You have to make a call, Dudley.
It's his first choice only.
I am playing with you. No, Enya first, David second.
Yeah. Does anybody vote first?
Split commission, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really nice idea, because it would be wonderful to give all of them something, but there can be only one for this one. Eleanor?
Nice. I'm glad she's getting your awards. Really lovely work.
And Grace?
I loved Eleanor's work as well, but I just thought the others were better.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll see what everybody else kind of comes back with, but I have a feeling it's going to be Enya as well, which is exciting. It's been a long process, so exciting. And then, yeah, going to see what the next part is.
But shall we seriously discuss bringing David in for a standalone art projects and the actual research projects behind it? Because I think it would come up with something spectacular, which doesn't need to influence wayfinding or environmental graphics, but actually be like a series of smaller pieces which could sit in other less directional ways, which is just...
Would that be instead of that main commission in the main waiting room? I give that to him, do you mean?
Instead of what do you mean?
Do you mean giving him, so he would take on like that commission of the main waiting area and then little pieces around?
Well, the main waiting area is Bat Studios, and the wayfinding would be potentially Enya. But there are walls. There is a long wall in the waiting room, which Jill Bradley was one of them. But yeah, potentially.
Maybe with one of those lenticular pieces or something.
But some of the images that it was showing, which is sort of when you have like lots of triangles next to one, so you see something on one side and one on the other, which is not a lenticular, but it looks a bit like Patrick Hughes type of work. Work on a very large scale, and can be really interesting as well. So possibly. It's not like a household name, the one that would get all the headlines in the press, but we would certainly do something phenomenal, interesting.
We would do. We would do.
Let's think about it anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for everybody's time on a Thursday evening. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Karen,
everyone. Yeah.
can I ask you a quick question about this account? Is it a webinar account, or is it just like a normal paid for pro?
Yeah, it's just a normal pro. The webinar is about 36 quid a month.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had one. One of us should get one.
The webinar one?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but
yeah.
I just wanted to know if you had it, because I was going to ask to borrow it, but I've got...
No, but I found a way around it a little bit. I can tell you about it.
Have you got 5 minutes tomorrow?
Yeah, no worries, yeah.
You trooper, thank you. Thanks so much, guys.
All right, thank you, Karen.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Bye.